He's the last word on sports. Fourth down on 4.
Welcome into Fourth Down on 4. I'm Scott Cody. Thanks for staying up late with us. 3 days of practices up in Jackson have come and gone for the Saints, where 11 wins and a trip to the NFC Championship game last season have taken expectations surrounding training camp to a level never before seen. Will those expectations be met, or will they lead to even bigger letdowns? Jim Henderson begins our coverage from Jackson tonight with a closer look into how the Saints must fight history to again make history.
As the Saints prepare to defend their first NFC South division title, history suggests they had better prepare for failure. Since the NFC South was born in 2002, no defending champion has successfully defended. In fact, none has even had a winning record the next season. Check it out. The Bucks went from 12-4 in 02 to 7-9 in 03. The Panthers from 11-5 in 03 to 7-9 in 04. The Falcons from 11-5 in 04 to 8-8 in 05. The Bucks from 11-5 in 05 to 4-12 in 06. So where will the Saints go in 07? From 10-6 a year ago. Why won't they be similarly afflicted by the tougher schedule, the greater expectations, and the nearly irresistible temptation to bask in the glow of past glory? Who will be the team in the NFC South this year as the Saints were last year, to defy the prognosticators and rise from the depths of mediocrity to a place of superiority? Why should a Saints fan expect them to be the exception to what has been the unbroken rule of the NFC South since its inception? Here's why. The Saints have gotten better as none of their other three division rivals sufficiently have to overtake them. You begin at quarterback. Drew Brees' statistics this year could be even gaudier than last year. With more weapons and more experience, Joe Horn will not be missed. But if Brees misses extensive playing time with an injury, all bets are off. Look at that situation and others elsewhere. The Falcons, how much more to be said? Atlanta led the NFL in rushing, too, last year. Michael Vick accounted for 1,039 yards. Warwick Dunn for 1,140. Vick is lost for the year in all likelihood. Dunn is a 10-year veteran recovering from back surgery. The Panthers, Jake Delhomme is 32 now. He threw the same amount of picks as Brees, just 11, but 9 fewer touchdowns. David Carr now waits in the wings. How patient will head coach John Fox be with the wolf at his door and the supposedly retired Bill Cowher next door, living now in North Carolina? Fox fired 3 associates after last year's collapse while hiring a new offensive coordinator. He got virtually no help in free agency. The Bucks. John Gruden's had 7 starting quarterbacks since winning the Super Bowl in his first season there in 2002. Journeyman Jeff Garcia figures to be the latest, with Gruden giving up on Chris Sims. The Bucks' defense is as old as the memory of winning Super Bowl 37. Taking the next step for the Saints means setting and achieving the loftiest playoff goal in their history. Not a wild card playoff berth, not even a second consecutive division championship. It means taking advantage of a weak division, as the Bears did a year ago, to compile the best record in the NFC, thereby obtaining home field advantage in the playoffs. Does anyone doubt the results would have been reversed January 21st in Chicago if the game were played in New Orleans? Those are the whys a great season awaits. Now it's up to Sean Payton and his Saints to provide the hows. Jim Henderson, Fourth Down on 4.
Juan Kincaid now joins us live from Millsaps up in Jackson. He's been at training camp from day one, and it's a pretty big hole that everyone knows about. Who's going to fill Joe Horn's shoes? We know Marcus Colston's number 1. Who have you seen has played the best that could be the number 2?
Well, you know, Scott, all bets are on Devery Henderson getting that spot based on experience with the system here. Of course, he excelled as a number 3 guy last year behind, of course, Marcus Colston and Joe Horn. But I think this year you got to look at a guy like David Patton. He's an 11-year veteran in the NFL, has been a part of 3 NFL Super Bowl winning teams with the Patriots. You know, he comes in here trying to kind of revive his career. Spent the last 2 years with the Washington Redskins. Really, his 2 worst seasons in the NFL, played about 14 games. but this guy has looked really, really solid here in training camp. He's got that burst of speed back. He's catching everything thrown his way. So I would say David Patton is the one guy you really got to keep an eye on. But again, Devery Henderson's played well in this camp as well, and it doesn't look like he's going to give up that second job easily. And
it's just a horrible thought to think about, but Jim touched on it. What if Drew Brees goes down? Your opinion, how does this team fare? How has Jamie Martin looked? Does he look better than he did against Carolina in that last regular season game?
Well, today he threw an interception, so that's not a good thing. But I will say this. I think if Drew Brees ends up going down, Sean Payton's going to go to Jamie Martin and says, look, we don't need you to win the football game for us. We need you to keep yourself from losing the game because there are so many weapons around you. If you can distribute the ball like Brees can, be efficient with it, then this team should not have any problems going forward and winning football games. But again, Jamie's going to have to be more efficient here in camp as well because you got two guys behind him, two young kids, and Palco and also Fife. Those guys aren't going to take over that second job, but if Martin's not playing well, you got to start looking at other options on maybe bringing a quarterback in, and I don't think Sean Payton would hesitate in doing that. But again, Martin's the second guy. Sean Payton has a lot of confidence in him, but we don't want Drew Brees getting hurt. He is the one guy this team can ill afford to lose. Scott?
Also, you lose the beer man. Steve Gleason not at camp right now. That could be a pretty glaring hole. Special teams for this team. They were successful last year.
Well, that special teams area, you know, they talk about the three phases, offense, defense, and special teams, and we go back to that Atlanta game. That really got everything started with that block punt by Steve Gleason and then a touchdown recovery in the end zone, going on to win that game big and just really start the season off great. Right now, you got a number of guys, and, you know, a number of guys taking punts and taking kickoffs. Terrence Copper, Raheem McKnight, I mean, you name it, the guys are getting in there and getting some action. Today, there were about 10 guys rotating on kickoff returns. Sean Payton told me this afternoon that is the one major concern that he has, punt returns. Even Reggie Bush will get an opportunity back there to return punts. Don't think he'll be doing much kickoff returning, but Sean Payton says he's got to find somebody in that spot before the season begins.
Juan, who's going to start? We've been putting it off long enough in this show. Fred Thomas or Jason David?
Well, Jason David's going to get that spot over Fred Thomas. Fred Thomas coming off of one of his worst NFL seasons in recent memory. But Jason David's the guy they brought in here off a Super Bowl winning team with the Colts. He is expected to bolster that defense on the corner. Coach Dungy's camp versus Coach Payton's camp, which is tougher?
They're pretty much about the same. You know, I think the toughest thing about this camp is just the heat. You know, just having to bypass that heat each day and come out and practice and work hard. But, you know, training camps are supposed to be tough, and it's football, so you kind of expect it to be hard.
You were a long-time starter in Indianapolis. Fans thought you were brought here to be a starter here with the Saints, but you've been kind of shuffling back and forth between the ones and twos. Tell me about that.
It's just a matter of me learning the defense. I think right now, I think my main focus is to not become a starter or not rush into that spot, but just learn the defense and just earn the respect of my teammates and my coaches. You know, just kind of let them know that I can play this game, and I'm the guy that they brought here to play football, you know, to contribute on this team. And, you know, I'm just here to have fun, try to put some paint where it ain't, you know, and just play football. Paint where it ain't. Coach Payton said the one thing that you have to get used to, and every play when they change teams, is the terminology. Mm-hmm. That's normally the most difficult part because the plays are all the same, aren't they? Pretty much. I mean, football is football, you know what I mean? And there's different ways to say different things. And wherever you go in the NFL, it's going to be like that. And almost in like a job force anyway. You know, you can go from one job to another, and they may, like you said, call something a certain way, and then you come somewhere else and it's a different word or something. So it's all about learning the playbook and just understanding the scheme as a whole. How do you make up for your lack of size? I know that's the biggest knock everyone has on you, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You know, I've been 5'8" since high school, so it's not something that I just grew into. You know, in high school I've been playing guys 6'6", 6'5", and you know, I've had success against them only because I learned how to use my body position. You know, for a shorter guy, you got to use your quickness to your advantage, and don't always try to make the great interception. You know, just try to get in position to knock down the ball, because that's a win, as you know, at the cornerback position. So I try to play big as I can and just have fun. You got that Super Bowl ring with the Colts last year. Was it important to you to go to a team, the next team, that has an opportunity to get to the Super Bowl as well, like the Saints are considered one of the favorites to get there? Definitely. You know, that was definitely one of the deciding factors, you know, and here is a great opportunity, being able to come in and play and have a chance to get another Super Bowl ring. That was definitely something that I looked at, and now that I look forward to going to the big game. I'm excited to be here. You know, I enjoy the fans. The fans are great coming out here, you know, just bearing down with us in this heat, and I'm having a great time.
And Scott, David was a starter with the Colts for many years. He comes here as the backup to Fred Thomas, but he's been running with the 1s and 2s all weekend. Won't be long until he's with that #1 group. Scott?
All right, Juan, stay put. We're going to get a lot more from you when we come back, including national expectations placed on this team. Can the defense catch up with the offense? Charles Grant says it already has. You're watching 4th Down on 4.
And we got to let the world know we ain't no push around. We coming to play for. When you play the Saints defense, you coming to play. It's either get knocked out or be knocked out. That's the way we got to go on the football field, man. And I think when the season starts, you'll see an arrogance about this defense that the world will be scared of.
Several national publications ranking the Saints as the top team in the NFC. Check out the company New Orleans is in. New England, widely considered to have had the most productive offseason, signing Adalius Thomas, Randy Moss. Those guys, the Colts, they're the defending champions. And the Chargers, LaDainian Tomlinson, new head coach or not, they still had the best record in the league last year. Now we'll quickly point to these. They're the same publications that last year picked the Saints to finish dead last. But new blood, a new playbook, and more important, a new attitude has shifted the paradigm of the Saints and their national reputation. Juan Kincaid with the story.
Few things open eyes and load up the bandwagon quite like a winning team. So as we mosey back into Millsaps College for year 2 of Camp Payton, we've begun to notice many eyes on unfamiliar faces fixed on the black and gold.
Well, they're a good story.
Pete Presko's an NFL writer for CBSSportsline.com. He's one of the many writers from national publications that will call Jackson home during Saints training camp.
This has always been a fun team to cover. The Saints have always been a fun team. They always have a great group of guys. They have open access.
The Saints' storied turnaround has been like an open book. 3-13 2 years ago, a run to Super Bowl 41 ending in the NFC Championship game 1 year later. A big story having a big impact on a hurricane-ravaged city, state, and region. The team's play lifted not just a large community, but an entire nation. And some of these writers believe that'll carry over to this season.
The Katrina side of it has worn off a little bit. Now it's just playing football. But I think they're a very good football team, so I don't think that they'll be falling back in a division or anything like that.
I was at the Falcons camp the other day, and Joe Horn brought it up, and I don't think it's too far from anybody's consciousness. I think a lot of people are still curious who haven't been to New Orleans since Katrina as to what the state of the city is, you know, how the city is rebuilt. I'm very fond of New Orleans. My daughter's a Tulane graduate, so I pay attention to it a lot.
It's only the start of training camp, but Jackson's expected to be one of the places to be during the NFL's preseason. You think Saints fans are the only ones thinking the black and gold are Super Bowl bound? Think again.
People in the national media like myself are picking them as 1 or 2 teams that could maybe go to the Super Bowl or something like that. And I think it might be enhanced because of the division now, too, with Vic maybe not playing in Atlanta. Maybe the Saints look like they're a lock to repeat.
I remember when I was here last year, I said to Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton that of the 12 teams or so that I saw in camps last year, this is probably one of the 2 worst. The Saints and the Jets were without doubt the 2 worst teams I visited last year. And either I'm a really bad judge of football talent and football teams, or this team overachieved. But you know what? When you overachieve and you set a foundation to be good and then you continue to build on it, I don't see any reason why this team can't do really special things again this year.
There are so many reasons to cover this team and enjoy it. Breeze, Bush, Deuce, Colston, and Payton, just to name a handful. But all agree there is a reason behind this franchise's complete 180 in just 1 season.
Aggressive offensive football. It's the only way in the NFL. Sean Payton's not afraid to take chances. There are so many coaches, they become head coaches, and they stop taking chances. Sean never stopped, and he's still going to continue to do that.
Breeze and Sean Payton, and that's 2, I'm sorry. You know? Okay. But I think they're together. They're meshed. I mean, I think they both sort of think alike. Drew follows what Sean's coaching and teaching, and I think that's why I think they're mentally, offensively are wired the same way, and I think that's pretty rare sometimes between a coach and a quarterback.
Even more rare, the thought of this team making it to Arizona for Super Bowl 42. But if they do, what a bandwagon ride it'll be.
Juan Kincaid joining us again live from Millsaps College. And Juan, you just saw in that report, obviously you saw it, you put it together, but I mean, is there a red carpet out there at Millsaps? This seems like the place everyone wants to see or be seen this year.
Well, you know, Scott, there have been some pretty good crowds out here watching this team over the last couple of days. They've played over in Jackson State's football stadium, one side of it completely full, and the fans have really enjoyed it. But, you know, you look at the national media that have showed up here, guys from ESPN.com, FoxSports.com, USA Today also coming in town, and it's going to continue to grow as training camp goes on because this is the hot team in the NFL right now. You can talk about San Diego, you can talk about Moss up in New England, but this team right here, people are very intrigued by it. There's talk about the sophomore jinx, the sophomore slump, if you want to call it. And none of these guys believe that's going to happen because all of them agreed to a man that the foundation for success over the long haul was really laid last year. And Sean Payton continues to do that. And the fact that he is such an offensive innovator, you know, he's a guy that is not afraid to take chances, not afraid to just go after you with the pass and then compound that with the run and find success any way he can. Because Sean Payton's like that and he has Drew Brees and they're such on such a same thought plane, that there's going to be nothing but success with this football team. So, yeah, they are a hot topic right now and for good reason.
How much does Jackson and Millsaps play a part in this? I read in a recent publication that the Saints training camp, one of the toughest in the league. I mean, it's kind of this old school Junction Boys type approach. And does that appeal to the masses as well, you think?
I think it does, Scott. I think a lot of the players have said all weekend long that, you know, when it gets to weeks 13, 14, and 15, when those other teams in the NFL are kind of winding down a little bit, a little drained, they think back to Jackson and that heat and how they made it through that. And that's kind of a motivator saying, and a reminder that, you know, look, we made it through Jackson, Camp Payton. As hard as that was, the hardest of some of these players of any training camp they've ever been a part of, if we can make it through that, we can certainly make it through weeks 13 through 16 through 17 into the playoffs and be stronger. And Deuce McAllister said it best. He loves having Reggie Bush around like we all do because Reggie is basically going to extend his NFL career by about 3 to 4 years. And it makes him even fresher as we get down towards the end of this regular season. So there's no doubt about this camp being a huge benefit for this football team.
And going back to that national mystique, Reggie Bush has a lot to do with that. I mean, he's making commercials, he's dating supermodels, very much adding to that Saints mystique, don't you think?
Well, you know what? John Zarnecki from FoxSports.com said it best. He says, you know what? There were only 2 reasons why we cared about the Saints. Because there was a possibility they might move to L.A., which they found out that wasn't going to happen. And the other reason was Reggie Bush, because Southern Cal is their pro team. So people in California are looking in on the Saints. They're understanding the difficulties our state and our region's going through, and they're sympathetic about that. But their big reason for watching the Saints all the way on the left coast is because of Reggie Bush. So, and that's the reason why stadiums are sold out when he goes into play, because people are still in awe what this kid did in college, and they know he's only going to get better in year 2 in the NFL. That's what I think a lot of people cannot wait to see, just how good this kid can be in year number 2, because it took him 6 or 7 games to get into NFL mode last year, and I think it's only the sky's the limit for this guy now.
Juan Kincaid live in Jackson at Millsaps. Thanks for your time. You can catch his reports daily along with Jim Henderson all this week. Plus next Sunday, Juan and Jim will be live again on 4th Down, this time from Canton for the Hall of Fame game with the Steelers. Be sure and stay with us after the break. 9 Super Bowls have called the Big Easy home. Today, the first ever Arena Bowl held in New Orleans. Highlights from the graveyard when we come back. WLTV.com will send breaking news updates right to your email. Thanks again for staying up late with us. For Jim Henderson, Juan Kincaid, and everyone else that makes this show work, I'm Scott Cody. Have a great week and God bless.